All righty, this is part 2. We are taking off with question 44. We are finding the greatest common factor here. To find the greatest common factor, you need to list the factors of each number. So 20, there are different ways you can do this. You can do a factor tree and find the common numbers, or you can list them out. I'm going to do a factor tree. So 20 splits into 2 and 10. 10 times 2 is 20. Then I'm going to split my 10 into 5 and 2. So now my 20 is broken down all the way because I cannot split any more of the 20 up. 5 and 2 don't go into anything else other than 1. Now I'm going to do 15. The factors of 15 are 5 and 3. So the greatest common factor is the ones they have in common. So they both have a 5 in common. So the greatest common factor is going to be 5. All right, let's try 12 and 18. So 12 breaks down into 3 and 4. I can break that 4 down into 2 2s, and that's as much as I can break down. 18 breaks down to 2 and 9, and I can break that 9 down into 2 3s. Now this can look different depending on the person, depending on the facts that you choose. Like if you had chose 6 and 8, it would look a little different, but you'd still end up with the 2s and the 3s. All right, we're looking for the ones they have in common. I see they both have a 2 in common. I see they both have a 3 in common. So what I'm doing there is I'm going to do 2 times 3. That gives me 6. So my greatest common factor is 6. I'm doing 24 and 30. I know 8 times 3 is 24, so I'm going to break it down. Then I'm going to do 8, which is 4 and 2. Then I can break that 4 down to 2 and 2. Now I'm going to do 30. 30 can break down into a 6 and a 5. 5 can't break down anymore, but 6 can do 2 and 3. I see I have a 2 in common and a 3 in common. So we're going to do multiply 2 times 3 again, and the greatest common factor is going to be 6. Now I'm going to do 22, which you cannot see. Give me just a second. All right, 22 breaks down to 2 and 11. 28 breaks down into, let's see. I know I can take a 2 in there because 2 times 14 is going to give me 28. And then I can break my 14 down to a 7 and 2. So I'm seeing 2 is what I have in common here. So my GCF is 2. And again, if this is really confusing, make sure you're asking for help in class. I give you homework time every class, so make sure you're asking. 20 breaks down into 5 and 4 because 5 times 4 is 20, and then 2 times 2 is 4. So what we're actually breaking this down into is prime numbers. That's what those are called. So 40 breaks down to 2 and 20, and 20 can do 2 and 10, and then 10 can do 5 and 2. And it's okay if this looks different. We still should get the same answer. So if you choose 8 and 5, you're still going to break down to the 2, 5, 2, 2. All right, I see both have a 5. I see both have a 2. I see both have another 2. I'm going to multiply these together to see what my GCF is. 5 times 2 is 10. 10 times 2 is 20. So my greatest common factor here is 20. Next, I'm going to do 18. 18 breaks down to 9 and 2, and then 9 breaks down to 3 and 3. 27 breaks down to 9 and 3, and then our 9 can break down further. I see 2 3s here and 2 3s here. So my greatest common factor is 3 times 3, which is 9. Now we have 3 numbers. So we have 6, which is going to break down to 3 and 2. 8, which is going to break down to 2 and 4, which breaks down further. And then 12 breaks down to 3 and 4, and that breaks down further. So we want to see, what do all 3 of those have in common? They all have a 2. So my GCF is 2. Now mathematicians are lazy. That's why we write GCF instead of greatest common factor, because mathematicians don't want to write greatest common factor over and over again sometimes because it slows us down. We want to be speedy if we can. So 12 is going to break down to 2 and 6. And then 3 and 4. So this right here is an example of different ways we can break down 12. So here I started with 3 and 4, and then I ended up with 3, 2, 2. Here I started with 2 and 6, and I ended up with 3 and 4. So I still break down to 3, 2, 2. Oh my goodness, I messed up. I'm so sorry. Again, we all make mistakes. I bet you caught it already. 3 times 2 is 6, not 3 times 4. So they always break down to 3 and 2 2s and 3 and 2 2s. Sorry about that. I'm sure it was confusing seeing your teacher do the wrong thing. All right, 18 is going to break down to 9 and 2, and 9 breaks down to 3 and 3. And in 24, we can do 8 times 3 to get 24, and 8 breaks down to 4 times 2, and we can break that 4 down to 2 times 2. So now we're seeing what do they all have in common? They all have at least 1 2. So, and I'm seeing they all have a 3. So our greatest common factor is 3 times 3, which is 6. All right, now I'm just going to visually go back and check on my work to make sure that I didn't make any other mistakes, and I think it looks good. All right, so now I'm going to do the least common multiple. So the least common multiple is going to be the same basic strategy. So I'm going to break down my 8. Okay, then I'm going to break down my 10. And this time, we are going to multiply everything. So they do have a 2 in common. So that's 1. So I'm going to cross those out. They have it in common. I'm only going to write it once if they have it in common. This has a 2, but 10 does not. This has another 2, but 10 does not. And 10 has a 5. Now I'm going to multiply all of these together. So you're kind of multiplying everything except for the ones that they overlap. So 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 5 is 40. So my least common multiple is 40. Now I'm going to do 9 and 6. 9 breaks down to 3 and 3, and 6 breaks down to 3 and 2. I see that they have a 3 in common, so I'm just going to write that once. I used it, it's gone. Now I'm going to write my other 3. I'm going to write my other 2. I recommend crossing them out because it helps you keep track. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 2 is 18. So my least common multiple here is 18. Next, I'm going to do 8 and 12. So that's 4 times 2, and then 2 times 2. Then I've got my 12, which is 3 and 4, and 2 times 2. They have a 2 in common, so I'm going to write that once. It says least common multiples, right? So if they have it in common, we're going to write least amount of times. So I see another 2 they have in common. Then I have a 2 here that they don't have in common, and a 3 they don't have in common. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 3 is 24. So my least common multiple here is 24. All right, moving to number 55, we're doing 7 times 8. So 7 doesn't break down, it's just 7. And 8 breaks down to 2 and 4 and 2 and 2. So to get this here, we're just going to do 7 times 2 times 2 times 2. So 7 times 2 is 14. 14 times 2 is 28. And 28 times 2, that's a big one. I'm going to have to write that up here. 28 times 2, 8 times 2 is 16. Carry my 1. So I get 56. My least common multiple there is 56. Okay, now we're going to do 9 and 12. So 9 breaks down to 3 and 3. 12 breaks down to 3 and 4. We can break that down further. We're going to write the 3 once because it's least common. So we only want to write them once if they have them in common. We're going to do our other 3 and then our 2 2s. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 2 is 18. And 18 times 2 is 36. So our least common multiple is 36. Now we're going to do our 10, which is 2 and 5. Our 15, which is 5 and 3. We see they have a 5 in common. Then they have a 2 and a 3. So our least common multiple here is 30. Now we've got a 6, which is 3 and 2. A 9, which is 3 and 3. And a 12, which is 4 and 3. Now, if you do not write as small as me, you can always do these on a separate sheet of paper. So I see they all have a 3 in common. So I'm going to write that 3 once. Then I'm going to notice that I have one that has a 2 in common. So I'm going to write that once. And I still have a 3 left and a 2 left. So 6 times 6 here is going to be 36. And our last one is 4. You cannot see that. Okay, 4. Sorry, it's so blurry. Goodness gracious. Technology. All right. And then 10. Okay, I see they all have a 2 in common, so I'm going to write that once. Then I see they have another 2, a 3, and a 5. So 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 3 is 12, and 12 times 5 is 60. So our least common multiple there is 60. Now there are different ways you can do this. You may have learned different ways, and it's fine if you do something that is different than what I did, as long as we get the same answer. Because you can also just like write out all the multiples. That's another way to do it. This is just a method I showed you today. And if you look over here, this gives you a different method to use. So if my method was confusing, you have a different method right here. Same with greatest common factor. If my method was confusing, you have a different method right here. So you use whatever works best for you. I don't want you to use mine if mine was really confusing. So we're going to go over fractions. Again, we've got different methods on this side, and I'm going to teach you the method I use. You just have to find what's right for you. It's just like getting a shoe. You want to make sure it fits. Okay, we're going to simplify these fractions. To simplify, you find a number. You find the greatest common factor and take it out of both. So I know I can take a 3 out of 9 and 12. So 9 divided by 3 is 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4. I can't take anything out because 3 and 4 don't have anything in common. For 6 and 8, I know I can take a 2 out of both of those. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. And 8 divided by 2 is 4. For 6 and 15, I know they both have a 3 in common. So 6 divided by 3 is 2. And 15 divided by 3 is 5. And in case you need to see that, I'm taking I'm dividing this out of the top and bottom. All right. I was a bad mathematician. I didn't show my work. I will show my work this time. So for 4 and 8, I know I can take a 4 out of the top and bottom because 4 divided by 4 is 1 and 8 divided by 4 is 2. So this is all about knowing your multiplication facts and what you can divide out of your numbers. 8 and 24, I know I can take an 8 out of the top and an 8 out of the bottom. So that's going to give me 1 over 3. For 3 and 12, I know I can take a 3 out of the top and a 3 out of the bottom. So that's going to be 1 over 4. For 2 over 10, I'm going to take a 2 out of the top and a 2 out of the bottom. And for 10 and 30, I know I can take a 10 out of the top and a 10 out of the bottom. So this is where that fact fluency comes in. So I did that very quickly. That's because I'm 100% fact fluent. So just knowing our multiplication facts is not always enough. We have to make sure we're fluent in them. Okay, so our last thing, second to last thing we are going to do is compare fractions. In order to compare fractions, you need to have a common denominator. So the bottom number needs to be the same. So here, I know I can turn 5 into 10 by multiplying by 2. So I'm going to multiply the top and bottom by 2. So that gives me 6/10. I know 6/10 is bigger than 2/10, so I'm going to write that sign. For 1/4 and 1/6, I know that 4 and 6 go into 12. So I'm going to multiply this one by 3. And I'm going to multiply this one by 2. Then they have a common denominator. I can see 3/12 is bigger. Next, I know I can turn my 3/5 into 10 by multiplying it by 2. So this is going to give me 6 over 10. 7 over 10 is bigger than 6 over 10. Here, I know I can turn 1/2 into 4/8 by multiplying the top and bottom by 4. So those are equal. They tried to trick us on that one. All right, here I know I can turn 5 into 15 by multiplying by 3. So that 4/15 is bigger. On this guy, I can turn 3 into 9 by multiplying the top and bottom by 3. So I know my 3/9 is bigger. This is just all about knowing your multiplication facts. You can use a multiplication table and try to find the common multiples too, because what we're actually looking at right now is common multiples from the last page. All right, here I know I can do 4 times 2 to get 8. So this is going to be 6 over 8, showing me 7/8 is bigger. My last one here, I have to think, what do 9 and 6 have in common? So if I break down my 9, I get 3 and 3. If I break down my 6, I get 3 and 2. So my greatest common multiple here is going to be 18. So that's where that least common multiple, I'm sorry, I said the wrong thing. Least common multiple comes in. So I know my least common denominator is going to be 18. So I multiply 3/9 by 2, giving me 6 over 18. And I multiply 2/6 by 3, giving me 6 over 18. And I find out they're equal. So this is what we learned from the last page. We're using that to find our least common multiple. Our last one here, what happened to 1/3? 3 and 2 don't break down. So my least common multiple is just going to be 2 times 3, which is 6. So I'll have 3/6 over here and 2/6 over here. That 3/6 is going to be bigger. All right, we are almost to the end. Very good. So here's some vocab words that you should know. If you don't, they're good to study. So maybe have someone in your life say, what's a point? And then you tell them it's a location. They can be like, yes, you're right, or no, you're wrong. So it's a good thing to quiz yourself over. If you need flashcards, I have a lot of flashcards in class. Just remind me that you need a pair. We're just going to identify some geometric figures. So this first one is an acute angle. The next one is going to be a line. So look how Miss Peacock went back and I looked at this resource page to help me. It's always good to use your resources. This is a point right here. This is a right angle. So I am just matching from this side, okay? These right here are called parallel lines, and bear with me because I always spell this word wrong. All right, this is a line segment. We know because it's got dots on the end, whereas a line has arrows. This right here is a perpendicular set of lines. And then right here we have a ray. So again, all of that just came from this page and having those memorized. For an obtuse angle, you want to make an angle that's bigger than 90 degrees. So I'm going to make this angle. A ray is a dot with an arrow on the end. An acute angle is cute, it's tiny. And then parallel lines do not cross. They can be in any direction. They just do not cross. Make sure you get those arrows on the end. Here's my parallel lines. Use a geometry term to identify the bold part of each triangle. So this is a line segment because it does not have arrows on the end. This is a point. And then this one is an acute angle because it's cute. It's tiny. Oh, help if I spelled correctly. All right, last page. Give yourself a nice thumbs up, pat on the back, because you made it to the last page. So I'm going to call this a challenge page. So I'm actually not going to help you with this one because I want to see what you can do without me. So this is a challenge page, and I just want you to try it. It's not about whether or not you get it right. It's just about you trying, okay? So we're going to call that a challenge page. So if you get them all wrong, it's totally okay. I just want to see what your brain thinks you should do. I want to give you some tips. It's really good to underline important information. So like Tina left her house at 6:45 a.m. She came home at 1:35 a.m. How long was she out of the house? So that way it can kind of help if you underline those numbers, and there are number words. So this one we have $18 per hour, and then 6 hours, and then how much money. So be trying to pull out those numbers because those will help you a lot. All right, thank you so much for watching this video. I know I went very fast. I will work on going slower next time. Thank you. Let me know if you have any questions. Message me on Canvas, ask me in class. I am here for you. Just let me know.